Hi, this is Alex from PHP Academy, and this is a video for the New Boston. Now, in this short series, I'm going to be or this short tutorial, I'm going to be talking about the include and require inside PHP. Now, you may visit websites and think, how do they get the design or the template exactly the same for every page? And the answer is that there's a preset template. Not necessarily using include or require. It will be using, most likely, but it will be using some kind of way to include this. Now you'll note that I've got two files open. I've got my index.php and I've got header.inc.php. Now header.inc.php has a header 1 with my page. So if we preview this in our browser, it looks like this. Now, what happens if I want to create multiple pages with the same header in? Now, let's just go and create another file, and I'm going to call this, I'm going to save this here in include require, and I'm going to call this, let's just say, another page.php. Okay, so I've got all in all three pages. I've got index.php, another page.php, and header.inc.php. Now we're going to later on in the tutorial discuss using PHP inside this file, but for now I'm going to say this is my template. Now if I want to write, let's say, echo, I'm just going to create a variable here called string, and I want to echo my variable. Okay, so on the index page this is basically going to echo string, and on here I want to echo var and echo var. So on my index page I'm echoing string, on my another page I'm echoing 10. Now what happens if I want to include the same header for both of these files? I want to have this my page header on both of these files. I can use either the include or the require function. Now for this purpose I'm going to be using include, and I'll tell you why just later. So we do include and we create sort of like two either semicolons, either two single quotation marks or double quotation marks. You can also wrap this in brackets, but I just tend to prefer to use this method. And I'm just going to simply say header.inc.php. If it was a directory before, I'd do that. If it was in another folder, I would do that. So wherever your file is, in this case it's in the same location as these two pages, in the same directory. So now what I've done is, if I go back to index page, I've actually included this file in the top of my my page just by using this keyword include and including the file. I can do that in another page as well. So include header.inc.php, and you can start to already see how useful this is, because now when I go over to another page.php, the header is exactly the same. Now the reason we do this in general when we're creating a website, let's just say it's no longer called my page anymore, it's called Alex's page. Now beforehand I would have had to go to index.php, change the header, let's just say the header was up here, I would have had to change this. Then I would have had to go over to another page and change the header there. But I've only had to change it once, and therefore, because we've included it, it's updated on index.php and it's also updated on another page.php. So we've created what's called a template system, where we've included our header. We can also include like a footer and then a main body if you wanted, or a menu. It's limitless. You can use as many includes as you want on one page. Now we may want to create a page where we store variables. Now let's just get rid of this, and let's just get rid of this. Now I want to echo out var1 on this page and var2 on this page. Okay, I'm not actually going to set var1 on this page or var2 on this page. I'm actually going to set it inside the header. So I open up my PHP tags in here and I type var1 equals string and var2 equals 10. You'll notice how the colours are changing, this just because of the nature of my text editor, but this is valid PHP code. So now I've declared these up here. Let's just comment these out for now, and you can see what happens when we refresh another page. Nothing's displayed, and when we come back to index.php, nothing's displayed. Now let's uncomment these and refresh. You can see string on that one, and you can see on another page we have 10, so we're back to original. However, we've declared these variables, we've assigned values to these variables in our header page, which we've then included. Now let's say we want to only run the rest of this page if this file exists. We want to check if this file exists. We want to kill the page if we can't find this header file, because if we're echoing out variable 1 on this page and variable 2 on this page, without this header file it's useless because we haven't declared our variables. So for this we simply use require rather than include, and you'll not notice any change to it whatsoever. Let's just refresh. It does exactly the same thing, and if we go back to index.php, it does exactly the same thing. However, let's change this back to include, and change this back to include, and let's say we specify a file here that doesn't exist, so none or doesn't exist.php, and let's just copy and paste this into here. So doesn't exist.php doesn't exist. Okay, so if we refresh we get an error. Okay, whereas here we're echoing out a variable, and we can display this by saying var2 is something, and then here we can say var1 is that. So if we refresh, we're still echoing out var1 is, but we're missing the variable because this page doesn't exist. However, if we were to choose require, okay, and we refresh, watch what happens to this. It disappears because we've retrieved a fatal error. And the fundamental difference between require and include is that require just handles the errors differently. So if we can't find the file and we've required it, it kills the rest of the page. We just kill the page off. So nothing else after this line here is executed. It kills it off. Therefore, the reason this is important is because if we needed variables, and we need this variable in this case to display this whole sentence properly, we require header.inc.php, and on here we require header.inc.php. Now, because we've required it and it does exist, everything works out fine. So it's just a way with the require to ensure that you might be including a core file that has a list of variables that you need to use without your program. And because require and include are useful in the fact that you can include a long file with lots of variables that you need to use on maybe lots of different pages, require ensures that this file does exist, therefore the files are required. Include is more for design based choices. So for example, you might want to include a menu. Your website doesn't necessarily have to run with a menu. You don't want to kill the rest of the page if you maybe don't have the menu file available. So you just need to make a logical choice whether you use include or require, but for now that's both them inside PHP.